In California, a robber pulls a gun on police, and he gets gunned down. In Mississippi, a police officer is shot during a drug raid. And in Rockford, police arrive on the scene of a bloody murder. The policeman's world is becoming more violent by the year.
There's a significant increase in the number of violent crimes that we've had in the last several years that have been reported to us.
You can't eliminate crime.
He had a ski mask on his face.
Somebody's going to get killed.
In the 1980s, violent crimes in Rockford rose by nearly 9%. Robberies were up over 11%. Thefts were up 19%. Aggravated assault cases, 37%. And reported rape cases up more than 200%. The number of homicides fluctuated from a low of 6 in 1985 to a high of 17 in 1988. Drug usage is one major factor in the rise of violent crimes. Another, the availability of weapons.
The number of armed robberies that we've encountered in the last year has been...
To become a police officer, one has to be 21 years old, have a valid driver's license, and a clean record. Then he or she has to pass a series of tests.
There's a very stringent testing procedure that the individuals have to go through, including physical agility testing, written testing, oral testing, psychological testing. It's a long process.
If those tests are passed, a recruit is sent here to the Police Training Institute in Champaign for 10 weeks. Then it's back to Rockford, where they're put through more training courses, like this one on firearms.
Whether they advance beyond here determines on how proficient they are with the weapon and how they handle the weapon.
Initially, officers will spend 24 hours down here working on their marksmanship. But this isn't just for beginners. Even veteran officers are required to report down here once a month to sharpen their skills. In the line of duty, things can happen in a hurry, requiring split-second decisions. It takes a special breed to wear a badge. Scott Leber, News 17.
Tomorrow night, I'll look at the different forms of stress police officers are up against.
Richardson, badge reporter Scott Leber shows us the daily pressures patrolmen must deal with in order to enforce the law.
12-4 Baker 92 1041.
Things are quiet today for Officer Richard Cunningham, but there have been other times in his 12 years on the force when the action got to be a little too much, like the time he was staring down the barrel of a shotgun.
Call came in as a guy trying to hang himself in a house. I went to the house and I pounded on the door, and I was looking in to see if anybody was there, and next thing I know, I hear this guy, he's got a shotgun pointed at me in the window, and he cocks it. I jumped off the porch real quick.
Then there are the times officers go to the aid of a citizen, only to learn that person doesn't want any help.
They look at the police and they see someone that is trying to do something, trying to take control over their life and force them to do something, and that's not really what we're there for. We're there to try to assist them when they need help. There's nothing wrong with needing help.
Perhaps tops on the list of frustrations are those moments when policemen are second-guessed for shooting an armed criminal. Last year, 3 Rockford police officers were put behind the desk and became the subjects of investigations when they pulled the trigger.
It's very tough to be a policeman today. It's become very technical. The laws that apply to the actions of the officer are very technical and detailed.
There's added stress from working without a partner and from the rotating schedules they have. All officers work 7 days straight, followed by 2 days off for 2 consecutive weeks. Then it's 7 more days on the job, followed by 4 days off. Some weeks they work the night shift, others the day shift. The hours can be the toughest part of the job.
It's the rotating hours of working all the different hours every month, changing your whole routine of how you live.
Some cops overcome the stress. Sometimes it overcomes them.
I still look forward to going to work.
Scott Leber, News 17.
And tomorrow night, we'll see how officers deal...
Reporter Scott Leber shows us how the police department helps officers cope with that stress.
Bloody scenes, body bags, bullet fire. For most of us, these are scenes we've seen in movies. For police officers, they're all too real. Sometimes it's their own blood that's in danger of being shed.
Usually it comes after the fact. Once you've left the situation and get back to your car, that's when generally the fear sets in.
Each year in the United States, more than 100 police officers are killed in the line of duty, but more than twice that many take their own lives. So when the stress of police work becomes too much, some turn to a higher authority for help. Father Wentic is in charge of the police department's chaplain division. He or one of the other chaplains is available to the department 24 hours a day.
It could go into one of two areas. One is cumulative things that have just kind of built up over the months and over the years that they've been involved in as a police officer. Or it could be one significant incident that they were involved in. Incident where a number of people might have been killed in the incident where children are abused, and it's those types of things, one particular incident, that stay in their head. They get flashbacks on those, they think about them, and we try and deal with those things.
When an officer has been through a traumatic experience, he or she needs someone to talk to and confide in. The sooner, the better.
If we don't talk about things in our life, then things stay in our head. And when something stays in our head, it goes all around and around, and it gets more and more out of proportion. And just by talking about it, we get a chance to clear our head, take a look at it, and put things in a little better perspective.
There are other stress programs the department offers for officers and their families.
The police department has in-house programs to deal with stress. Supervisors monitor the activities of the officers assigned to them very closely.
Scott Leber, News 17.
Tomorrow night, I'll look at female police officers.
Long time. I started later in life. I was 32 years old when I was sworn in. I just always thought it was very interesting, and I like to work with people.
As of the end of January, the Rockford Police Department had 244 sworn officers, 23 of them females. That's better than 9% of the force. Police officers are individuals first and foremost, and each handles situations as best as he or she can. But in some instances, female officers may be better at handling certain situations.
I had reservations like any of the other officers, older officers that had been here for a while, when the numbers of females started to increase, that they wouldn't be able to handle a job physically or emotionally. But the opposite has come true. Not only are they able to handle the physical aspects of the job, they have a calming effect in many situations, which has proved very valuable.
Sometimes I think it benefits a female officer because we do a lot more talking to the general public when it comes into a problem.
Some people react differently to female officers than they would to a male officer. And officers like Pratt hear comments about their petiteness. But those things don't stand in the way of the job. What does weigh on the mind of Pratt is how she'll juggle a demanding job and a family life. She's currently single.
That's something I think about, and I think it would be somewhat difficult, but there's a lot of people in this department that are married and have children and have been successful, and others haven't. But sure, that's something that I think about.
Scott Leber, News 17.
And tomorrow, police burnout. We'll talk to a former officer who got fed up with it.
But knowing and experiencing those pressures are two different things. Tonight, we close out our series, Beyond the Badge, with a young man who turned in his badge.
For 2 years, Rockford native Mike Harvey was a police officer in the Chicago suburb of Lombard. But even this 25-year-old, hardened by a stint in the Marine Corps, couldn't put up with the stress of the job.
Police in general are outmanned and outgunned. I mean, the criminals have bigger guns and have more rights than the police officer does. I mean, it's a no-win situation.
Today, Harvey is taking classes at Rock Valley College, hoping to begin a new career. The stress of being a police officer progressively took its toll on Harvey until one day he decided enough was enough.
I think the final one that really broke the camel's back was I pulled a 7-year-old kid out of a retention pond at a housing complex, a little 7-year-old boy, and that one hit pretty hard.
At times, Harvey felt like he was fighting a losing battle.
It's not like you're a carpenter where you can step back and say, wow, look at the house I built. You can't say, wow, look at all the crime I'm stopping, because it's all going to be out there. You know, there's nothing you can do about it.
Police work may not have been for Harvey, but it is for some people who say they can't get enough of it.
It's the type of job that gets into your blood. When you come on this job as a young patrol officer, as years go on and your experience increases, it's something that you learn to love. It's unlike any other kind of job because every day is different.
Harvey is looking for something very different, a new line of work.
I'm either going to go to law school, be a lawyer, or I think I want to teach history. I would like to be a history teacher.
Scott Lubber, News 17.
And still ahead on News 17 at 5, Paul Youngblood's